Hello everyone, I am your host, Ahad Hussain, and welcome to Season 5 of Titan Alumni Talks, a weekly podcast where we talk to alumni about their experiences at Cal State Fullerton. For this week's episode, we have Elizabeth Shannon, who is a Customer Relationship Manager at Experian Consumer Services. She graduated in 2013 with a Master's in Kinesiology with an emphasis in exercise science. Listen as we talk about her experiences at Cal State Fullerton, along with how she transitioned into this job from a background in kinesiology. You can catch these episodes live at 10 p.m. on Wednesdays at titanradio.org, or you can watch all past episodes on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/CSUF alumni. You can also catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher Radio. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
So the first thing that you're currently doing, you're a CRM Strategy Manager for Experian. So that's kind of a lot of words right there. And for someone who doesn't have a background in it, I'm sure a lot of students don't know what that is. So can you give us like a brief rundown on what that means?
Yeah, so CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. And so that can mean a lot of things in a lot of different fields. Sometimes CRM is like a technology platform, but in my world, CRM is essentially marketing and customer experience. And so at Experian, I am responsible for like the direct-to-consumer lifecycle marketing strategy. And so I have to drive customer engagement, tenure, monetization. So whether that's sending an email to an existing customer or creating push notifications to engage them, making sure that a customer's on-site experience matches what they're getting in email or from a digital retargeting ad, etc. Those are all the different things I get to work on every day.
So this is not your first time working as a customer relationship manager. You've done this a little bit before. So how does it kind of differ from, well, let's just go into your most recent position at, you were CRM manager for Resorts Division. So how does that kind of differ working as a CRM manager there versus at Experian?
Yeah, so at the Resorts Division, that was for the Irvine Company. And so they have a variety of hotels in Orange County, restaurants, spas, all of that type of thing. So one of the biggest differences is being a one-stop shop at the Irvine Company, where I did analytics, all the campaign execution and ideation kind of on my own, versus at Experian. It's awesome. We have this huge team. So there's a whole analytics department, a whole like email developing department. And so it's a lot more collaborative there. But yeah, it's wildly different in just industries too, like luxury hospitality and amazing vacations versus credit scores and financial empowerment. So big learning curve between the two, but an exciting change.
Mm-hmm. So you're just dealing with different types of customers based off of what the company is mostly dealing with. So you're kind of like a middleman in between, like, I would guess, like the business executives and trying to tell them what the consumers want.
Yeah, in a way. So we actually even have a consumer insights team that they're really the ones like diving into what the customers want and their feedback. And then they funnel that to us so that we can make sure that the communications we're sending them are helpful, engaging, and then that kind of it's a seamless experience from what I send to what they see when they log into the product.
I see. So how does one kind of get into this field? What type of background should you want to become like a consumer relationship manager?
Yeah, so I probably have a weird story of how I got in because I actually didn't go to school for this. I was a kinesiology major in undergrad and at Fullerton in my graduate studies. But being a grad student, like the classes are at weird times. And so it also afforded me the opportunity to have kind of a also weird time job, which was at the resort itself. And so really it just brought you into learning about the hotel and then moving up from there from frontline to coordinating and analytics to learning about the customers and getting into how to sell the resort itself. And so for me, it was kind of serendipitous how I ended up into it and really just being at the right place at the right time. But for how other students could get into it. I mean, obviously, if you know that you want to do this from the beginning, taking the right classes is going to be a huge step versus having to go backwards like I did. But also just trying new things and really getting into the psychology of marketing and what customers want and need is probably a good first step.
I see. So maybe taking some business classes or majoring in marketing would kind of be the quote unquote regular way of getting into being a CRM. But as
Yeah.
we can see, you don't really need to be a business major or a marketing major to get in this field. You can do it kind of from any background. You just have to have that as your goal.
Yeah, really understanding the industry that you're in and that you're going to be marketing was huge. So even though I was just like a front of line employee at the hotel, it really helped me understand the ins and outs and what customers want, which directly benefits you once you go to try to get people to buy it. And so deep diving into the industry and then also just the way customers think and understanding the psychology of how people consider purchases and consider what they want to do is a good side shoots to get into it too. So psychology.
So this job isn't so much about the work that you do, but it's also for the company or the field that you're in as well, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like you're not just like a CRM and that's just like your title, but it's kind of in a position or a job company that you were looking forward to working at. Let's say it was at like the hotel position or working with credit scores and finances and all of that. Or you can branch to, I guess, like any industry as long as you're a CRM.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the principles apply across all different industries. So, smart segmentation, making things as personalized as you can to an individual customer, is the same principle in hotel vacations as is budgeting and finance and things like that. So, making sure that you get the information and the message that's going to engage you the most effectively, as opposed to just some broad blanket thing, can really apply anywhere. You just have to learn the industry.
I see. So a lot of like different jobs or positions that you get in, you kind of focus more on just the work itself, but it's kind of like there are a couple of industries where you can work and you can also work at a company that or an industry that you also like. And I kind of like that about being a CRM. It's not just a job title. It's more about the position that you're in and who you're working with, like who you represent, the type of brand that is there. Because kind of that you kind of need to know the ins and outs of the industry. So if it's something you're really passionate about, if you are passionate about, let's say like healthcare or maybe like the car market or something like that, then you can work there, and that's kind of interesting. Where
Yeah,
I never really thought like that there would be something so broad, even though it's like one job title.
totally. Yeah, very widely applicable from hiking up a mountainside, companies that maybe provide tour packages to, like you said, automotive or pharmaceuticals or really anything. No problem.
All right. So again, you didn't follow like a traditional path. So let's talk about like the path that you did take and what the original intentions were.
Yeah.
So you graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Kinesiology in 2009 from Humboldt State University. So what was kind of like your background going into that? What was kind of like the thought process or your future career goals when going to Humboldt State?
Yeah. So I actually decided on Humboldt State because I was an intercollegiate volleyball player. And so that was why I went there to play on the team and compete. And so that was an amazing experience in itself and brought me to Humboldt. But that also kind of led me into kinesiology. I've been active my whole life, always playing sports, like every season in high school, club volleyball. So that was a big draw initially. But then I also really loved like the science of it, learning about the human body and how the heart works and all the organs and stuff like that. So it's not just PE, there's all kinds of other avenues that you can take in kinesiology.
I see. And I guess it kind of gives you like an advantage, if you're working in volleyball and you kind of understand like the science behind the sport itself,
Yeah,
you kind of get like better at the sport. You understand like the theory behind it as well. So I guess it's a pretty interesting field to go into, right? It's not so much like what people think, and I guess it's kind of broad as well.
it is. Yeah, there's lots of different avenues you can take, whether that's nutrition, specialty. you could do teaching and coaching like PE or athletics. There's a lot of strength conditioning training that you can do at colleges, universities, NFL teams, anything like that. Or the part of it that I really liked, like I mentioned, was the exercise science part. And a lot of that could be like EKGs or doing research and testing on like lung capacity studies. So there's all sorts of different things. The other part of it that I really liked was the employee wellness aspect. So that's becoming a bigger thing nowadays. Companies have their own, sometimes in-house employee wellness programs. I did an internship in my undergrad at a hospital that had its own fitness center for the employees. And so that was really cool. Lots of different avenues I didn't even know were available.
I guess that makes sense. Like we're kind of used to sitting on our butts all day as like
Yeah.
employees, and it's kind of like important, you get up, you walk around and just understand more about your own health. Because it's very easy to overlook, especially like 8 hours a day, you're constantly working and then it's not on the top of your mind, especially if you have to go out of your way a couple of miles to go to a gym. But if there's a fitness
Mhm.
center like in the area or in like your workspace, then it makes it a lot more convenient. And there are a ton of studies about, like exercise keeping the body healthy, keeps the mind healthy, keeps you more productive. So it also benefits the company as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, lots of studies about having an employee wellness program. While it might cost money to set up, it actually benefits the company in cost savings in the long run, just from like insurance and all of that. And having it on site for the employees to pop in during their lunch break or like take a guided 15-minute walk around the block with their peers and just kind of chat and mentally check out from work for a little bit, I think is some of the stuff that people really enjoy.
So you focus more on exercise science, and so what did that sort of entail?
So that is a lot more of like the research of it. Whether that is, I don't know if you've seen people that do what's called VO2 max studies. They've got like the big face hookups and measuring lung capacity and EKG setups and everything, looking for heart arrhythmias, stuff like that. That was really my focus. And then like muscle burnout during repeated fast movements, that type of more scientific aspect was what was fun for me.
So I guess like for athletes that are at Cal State Fullerton or any university, if they kind of don't know what to major in, then kind of putting the mind where the body is, because the body's already doing all that work when they're at the field, doing whatever sport that they're doing. But understanding the concept behind it, then it kind of makes sense, like their passion's already there physically. Why not study it as well?
Yeah, it really tied it in. And there was definitely tons of other athletes in my classes with me. Like, oh, so that's why when I sprint super hard, I get tired in, 15 seconds as opposed to a jog where I can go for an hour. Like the science behind why that actually happens was like opening a whole new door.
Mm-hmm. So what was kind of like the goal after getting your BS in kinesiology afterwards? Did you right away think that you were going to go for your master's, or did you sort of like think about a job prospect afterwards, or what was kind of like the reasoning behind that?
Yeah. When I graduated, I was kind of unsure. Like I knew that I thought the field I wanted to go in was that employee wellness field. Um, However, where if I were to return back home from Humboldt State, there weren't really any jobs in that, unfortunately. So that's tip one, do your research about where the jobs are in your field. A lot of them were on the East Coast or in big cities. And so I knew that if I wanted to pursue that as a career, I'd probably have to move somewhere, which kind of brought me to Southern California for one. But then also grad school was something I was also playing around with, and I wasn't really sure what path I wanted to take. And so just to kind of keep doors open, I applied to a few different programs that I was interested in, but actually never finished. I didn't do the essay, or I did like the testing and then the applications and stuff like that, but I never finished applying. And so I like to say that Fullerton actually kind of chose me too, because they called me and were like, hey, you didn't finish, but we still want you to come here. Like, these are your options. So it just kind of the stars aligned. They wanted me to come anyway. They wanted me to teach the volleyball classes at Fullerton, and I get paid to do it. So it was just too perfect to pass up. So found myself at Fullerton for grad school.
So that's what you were kind of doing, right? When you were a part-time faculty at Cal State Fullerton?
Yeah. I think it technically is like an adjunct faculty. So I taught the volleyball classes there. There's 2 days a week. And then I also worked in the on-campus employee wellness center too while I was going to school.
Oh, okay. And that's kind of like what you originally wanted to do. And you know how you said like the jobs are in the big cities, I guess, Orange County, not like the biggest city, but
Yeah.
I mean the job is there. But it's kind of great that Cal State Fullerton kind of made sure that, you know, like a potential Titan was not just like left in the dust just because, you know, like a few things are missing, that they kind of understood that, hey, look, this person with experience, with background, could be a good fit for the university. And that kind of like goes to show how far Cal State Fullerton is like dedicated into making sure like the students and even future students have a place on campus and are able to fit in very easily.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciated that about them, and just the support of the faculty and the whole department from beginning to end. I knew that I was also going to have a full-time job while going to grad school. And so even the timing that the grad school classes are, they're in the evening from like 4 to 10. So that was super convenient for me to be able to work in the morning and then go to school at night, and just kind of make everything functional for real life.
Mm-hmm. So how was kind of like the commute or the process of going to like working in the morning and then going at night? Did you have like an apartment close by, or were you living like very like near campus, or was it like a lengthy commute or something like that?
So I lived in Santa Ana, so not super close, but not super far either. It wasn't like in, I don't know, Riverside or something like that.
Where
Um,
I live.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so it is one of those long commutes. I can't imagine doing
Yeah,
that like twice a day. Or did you do that like multiple times a day, or did you just like stay on campus like throughout?
I stayed. So
Mhm.
I really only came to campus 2 times a week, but they were super full days. So I would come at 5:30 in the morning and open the Employee Wellness Center, and then I'd work there for about 3 hours until it was time to teach the volleyball classes. And I do that from like 9 to 12. And then in between that, and then when my actual grad school classes would start from 4 to 10, I would, study or do homework or whatever. So I don't know how many hours that is, 15 hours almost on campus. So they're full, only 2 days, but they were full ones.
Yeah, that's basically like a job at that point, you know, like 30
Yeah.
hours a week, and not counting like, you know, you go home, do the homework, and then at that point you have to work with like the students and plan for the class and all that. So it does become like a full-time job going to grad school. And I can't imagine doing that for a
Yeah.
couple of years to get your degree and, you know, like teaching at the same time. Like it's very commendable to people who like work during grad school as well. And it's like, you know, that's like the ideal scenario, but it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so when did this kind of transition from you working kinesiology and working in fitness to um, kind of working with consumers and in sales? And it's kind of like a big jump. And I just want to know, how did you transition into it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, on one hand, I'm going throughout my kinesiology and grad school studies. And then on the other hand, I'm doing that front of the line job. And so while I'm progressing in my studies, I'm simultaneously being promoted over at the resort. Like I said, to from front of the line to like sales and marketing department, and then to total owning the CRM strategy at the resort. And then around that time, I graduated. And so now I'm at this crossroads, like number one, what option A, do I take my degree and run with it, find a new job, kind of start a new career path, etc. Or number two, continue where I am, because around that time too, I am also being offered to not just run the CRM strategy at the one resort, but to do it at the corporate level for the whole resort division. So this is a career path that's brought me a ton of personal growth and opportunity, and I really like it, and I'm good at it. So it was such a hard choice to make, but in the end, I just kind of stuck with path two, while simultaneously keeping my kinesiology certifications up to date. So kind of having both avenues available to me, but starting to commit to one.
sometimes it's like taking a chance because like a lot of people they sort of think that if I'm working a part-time job or if I need to make some extra money, I'm going to do that in my field specifically. But sometimes if you kind of like branch out, then you kind of don't know where they lead. Like you said, you're just working like sort of at like the lower end at like Pelican Hill, but then over time they just kept promoting you while you were working on your studies, and you kind of just like fork down the road and you were just took the best of both worlds. You know, you were able to focus on your studies, you were able to pursue your passion while also working right in something that you were
Hmm.
very familiar with, very experienced in, and like a volleyball teacher. But you were also able to make that money and kind of find another road just in case if something you just suddenly decided you didn't think kinesiology was the right path for you or just hated sports all of a sudden, you had another option, which is kind of what more students should understand that hey, look, not everything is going to work on the first try, right? You
Yeah,
know, like you're 17 out of high school. What are the chances that the major that you picked is something that you're going to want to do for the rest of your life? So it's
totally.
good to kind of make sure that you know you have like other roads, you know, that it's not completely shut down. And like you said, you kept your credentials up to date with kinesiology. So somewhere down the line, if you decide that you're kind of tired of being a customer relationship manager, you can still go back to kinesiology and doing what you originally thought, because you didn't like shut down that road just because you just figured out another job.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna lie, it was scary to be like, no, all that 8 years of school I just did, forget it. I'm just gonna do this other thing. So that was hard and a little nerve-wracking, but sometimes you just have to take a leap. And like you said, like not everything's gonna work out, and that's okay because you've got your avenues open. You just eventually at one point have to pick one and try it.
I guess it kind of like goes to show as well that it isn't too late to change industries. And like, what would be your advice for some students who maybe not in your exact position, but they might have a degree or about to graduate with a degree, and they kind of find out that it's not for them? What would kind of be your advice to students who are thinking about transitioning career paths?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, Try something like apply for an internship or talk to a friend, find a mentor in the alumni network and someone that does something you might think you want to do, and just have a conversation. The worst thing that happens is that you talk to a recruiter about it who works for, let's say you want to work for Apple. You talk to Apple and they're like, give you the rundown and you're like, oh, never mind, that's not the thing that I thought it was. It's okay to say no or change your mind again, but just start exploring. And if you find something you do think you want to try, apply for everything that you can and give it a go and see what it feels like in real life to actually work in it and have experience.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of great points. The first being is what's the worst that's going to happen, right? If you do talk to someone who is experienced in the field, it's not like you're actually applying and you're putting all your effort into it. You just want to learn a little bit more about it to see if it's for you. And the
Yeah.
worst that's going to happen is you might waste an hour, but in the long run, you could save so many years of your time because you just decided to talk to a person just to figure out, you know, what it entails. And then you also mentioned that you can shadow someone, you can talk to someone in the alumni network. And it's something that you are part of as well, because you're part of Titan Pro Network. And as you know, it is something that so many alumni are connected to. I believe we have over 2,000 alumni signed up on it. And as a result, there are just so many alumni who are willing to help students and give them more information about how to find these avenues that will work for them. So it's all about reaching out to people who want to reach out to you as well,
Hmm.
which Titan Pro Network makes easier. So this is a recommendation for all students, alumni, faculty, and staff. Just anyone who just wants to make those connections, or again, like we mentioned, who don't want to close down those future paths and be stuck with one career or one option, even if it's just not one career. You can head on over to Titan Pro Network on our website at calstatefullerton.com. And then with it, you're able to just find so many people in various industries. And these are people who are willing to help, which is also great because I know cold calling is difficult to do sometimes. You get a little
It is.
nerve-wracking. Yeah, and like as someone who works with like consumers and customers, sometimes like some people don't want to talk to you, but everyone on Titan Pro Network has signed up voluntarily, right? So they're just waiting for you to reach out. So there's actually like no excuse not to do so. So yeah, I know cold calling. It's no matter how many times you do it, you always get like a
Doesn't get easier.
it doesn't get easier no matter what they say. It never gets easier. And they always say, what's the thing, like the next person you call won't know like if you messed up with the last call, but like
It's true.
you
Yeah.
know
Oh,
you
you
messed
know.
up. So it's like, yeah, they don't know, but like my confidence is killed. So no, yeah, it never gets easier. So that's the great thing about this. It's not cold calling because they want you to reach out. So it's like they're just waiting for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, those great points that you mentioned. It's what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just going to waste an hour max, and then we have a big network of alumni at Cal State Fullerton, over 300,000 alums. So we're here from like every single industry. It's not like it's not like you're not going to find something.
Totally.
We're going to ask her some of these quick fire questions. So A or B questions, very quick, and we kind of want to know these. Actually, some of these, we're gonna make them like like trivia questions. So first off, what year did Cal State Fullerton open its doors?
Oh man, 1955.
1957. It's close.
Oh, okay.
Close.
That's a good guess.
So who's our school mascot? This is an easy one.
Oh, the Titan, the elephant.
What's his
I don't
name?
know. I was a grad student. I don't know.
You're gonna offend Tuffy. Tuffy's gonna be so offended. You forgot his name.
Tuffy.
So what?
I'm so sorry.
What are our official school colors?
Blue and orange.
Yeah, that works. There's always like the debate over like gray or white, but blue and orange,
okay.
like that's the major ones. All right, so not bad. 1 out of 3.
I'm a little rusty. I've been out of school for a while.
That's true. But Tuffy's gonna hear about it.
I know.
All right. So, math, science, or art?
Science.
Okay. If I open up your Spotify or Apple Music, what is the last song you played?
I don't know the song, but I can tell you the playlist. It is Buddy's Pet Playlist.
Buddy's
Spotify curated.
What type of music is in there?
It's like a little bit of folk and definitely 90s boy band.
Oh, okay. I see. And NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, is it them?
Oh yeah.
Okay, they fall under that. That's I'm a little too young for that.
I'm dating myself.
So dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Favorite destination you've traveled to?
Ooh, Germany.
That's pretty interesting. A must-read book.
There's too many. The Midnight Library is a new good one that I liked.
And the last one is your favorite Cal State Fullerton memory.
My favorite memory. So when I was teaching, I told my volleyball students if they could beat me in the intramural league, they didn't have to take the final. If their team could beat my team.
Did they win? They
did not. I still won.
Who did your team consist of? Was it just like faculty? Was it just like all teachers versus students?
So it was actually when they allowed alumni to start playing. A bunch of my old students that had just graduated came back, and we had a little team.
Well, that's unfair. You kind of just built like a perfect team.
The dream team.
Yeah, and then you just went all out on these like poor little freshman students, just taking volleyball and like, hey, this is an ECA, and then they have to take a final. Oh,
it was an easy one, barely part of the grade.
But that's a fun way to do it. You leave it up to chance, but it's not up to chance. They had to work for it, and they just didn't do it.
Yeah.
All right, so currently, you're in Reno, Nevada, which is not like what people normally do. You graduate and you kind of stay near like your hometown, or you stay in California at least. So what kind of made the transition into Las Vegas, and is it your first time moving out of state?
It is my first time moving out of state. So I actually grew up kind of by Lake Tahoe, really in the middle of nowhere. And so I went all the way to the north of the state to Humboldt for school, and then all the way to the south-ish to Orange County for grad school. And then I lived down there for like 10 years or so. But I've always missed the outdoors and living in the mountains and all that. But living in the mountains plus having like a corporate job don't always align together. And so when COVID hit, I had already kind of been having conversations with my boss about options for remote work and what that might look like with Experian still. And yeah, when COVID hit, everybody went remote and suddenly it wasn't such a big deal anymore. And so I got the opportunity to still keep the job I love, but move to a destination that more closely aligned with kind of like my work-life balance goals. And so here I am.
I see. So is everyone like kind of moving back in Experian, or is it like people are still working remote regardless of like where they live in relation to Experian and all that?
It's a little bit of both. So our office is partially open again, but you don't have to go in unless if you don't want to. So there's a few people that go in, I think, that probably have younger kids at home and maybe need a little bit more concentration. But a lot of us have moved and are able to stay fully remote. We're hiring fully remote workers. And so Experian has really embraced kind of the new normal with the way the world is and the future of work. And so lucky me, I get to keep living over here.
So with like remote work and remote school, I mean, like we were all kind of forced into it. Like we didn't really have an option. But
Yeah.
I mean, like currently, like when it is an option, I still prefer to come in on campus or like coming in for work because, you're kind of in that different mindset. And like you said, mentioned prior, that, people who have like other responsibilities, if they have kids, they kind of can focus at work instead of, the constant distractions at home. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you kind of like keep away from those distractions or kind of getting in like sulked into, hey, I can just stay in bed all day and do the work from bed? Like like what are your like kind of routines to get out of that?
Yeah. So one of the other things about moving here is that the cost of living is way less in Orange County. And so now I can have a home where I kind of have a separate space for work. And so that's been really helpful in getting the routine and being able to stay in that work mindset is like I'm in my office right now and I can really focus in here. And I'm not gonna lie, there's definitely days where like it's pajama work day. And that's the benefit of working from home, but having my own space, being able to really focus is helpful. But it was a big adjustment for sure.
So it's kind of like making a unique space, whether it's even in like in the bedroom. If you
Mm-hmm.
have a desk and you're not just doing the same work from your bed, then you kind of like mentally, like subconsciously, you're sort of in a different mindset, which kind of makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I walk upstairs to go to the rest of life to make dinner and stuff like that, it's like my commute that was in the car. So it's kind of
Just an
a
extremely
nice
short
brain
commute.
shift. Yeah. Another
Yeah.
benefit.
Yeah, that is true. You do save quite a bit because, like I mentioned, I live in Riverside, so it is like an hour drive. If like it, like on average, sometimes it goes above and below, but 2 hours a day is sort of like quote unquote wasted.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, and the commute also wears you out as well. So it's not like I come home and it's like, okay, I only wasted 2 hours, waste another like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, kind of getting back into the, hey, I got to finish some more work, or I got to
Yeah,
work on this now, or I kind of make dinner, but no, yeah, it's kind of nice having like everything with you. You kind of don't forget anything at home. So
that's
there's
true.
not that fear either. So I guess it's like finding a balance. Like some people it works for them and some people it doesn't. So, it's like to each their own.
Yeah.
So is Reno like your dream destination? Is that like where you plan on staying?
So this is probably going to sound crazy to a lot of people, but I moved to Reno having only visited here once, and
Really?
I actually toured my house over FaceTime that I bought. But my brother lives here, and this is about like an hour and a half from my family home. So there is that community kind of already ingrained. And so when we were looking to leave Southern California, looking for like a mountainy, outdoorsy area, Reno kind of checked those boxes for lifestyle, community, and just kind of the good first place to start, I guess, the first place to test out. So far it's been great. I guess it's hard to say if it'll be like my forever end of life retiring destination because I think I got a bit of itchy feet sometimes, but it's good for now.
So I guess if you are like planning to move out of state, or for any person who's like willing to do that, having that sort of like family there or even friends, someone that you can still talk to and like, get a little comfortable with, because it's sort of intimidating, like moving out of state, it's sort of like moving out of the country. It's
Yeah.
everything is different, So having someone that you can experience that shift with is kind of, it makes it a bit easier, which is interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, again, this is, I guess, one of my favorite phrases, but what's the worst that can happen? Oh, you don't like it? Okay, then just move back.
That's
So
true.
yeah, have fun, like go for it. Just
Yeah.
give it a try.
So, how did your work at Experian sort of change from working in person to working at home? And would this also be something that you could have done at the previous places where you were also a CRM?
Um, Honestly, it didn't really change that much. We used to have a lot more like in-person, like whiteboarding, literally writing on a whiteboard brainstorming sessions before, but we have always been a pretty highly collaborative workplace. So that whiteboarding has now changed to like drawing boxes on a PowerPoint and everybody typing in things like you're putting a sticky note on the board. And so we found ways to collaborate in the new environment still. So it hasn't changed that much. I'd say there's just as many meetings, just as many calls as there was ahead of time. But in my old company specifically, it probably wouldn't have worked out. We just weren't set up for that remote environment. But CRM as a whole, as a career and industry, is super digital first. And so I think there are a ton of companies out there that are hiring for that, hiring remote, work from anywhere. It's definitely a common thing in the industry.
I see. So that kind of like brings up a good point, like a good pitch to a lot of students who are coming in and like maybe they're about to graduate or they don't know what to major in. CRM is kind of like a place where you can work from home and sort of get like all the work done that you were able to get. Because I feel like that now that the transition has happened, sort of forcing us to do it, it
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of like a revolution that, now that it happened, now everyone has that option and they can discuss it with their boss or kind of have it on their mind, instead of like before it sort of wasn't like a thing.
Yeah.
You can't really do that. Or if it was, then it's kind of like luck of the draw. It's not like you can go into an industry now expecting to work from home and like sort of demanding it from like a superior or a boss.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before it was easy to say, like, well, that's not the way it's done here. Like, we don't, everybody comes into the office. But then there was a year where nobody went in the office. And guess what? Most companies were fine. Or maybe that's an exaggeration, but at least Experian was fine.
Yeah.
And they trusted us and we still got our jobs done. And so I think that was pretty eye opening for a lot of the businesses in the country. And now to attract that top talent, a lot of companies are happy to kind of open up the pool to remote. And I think it's a positive move in the long run.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into like some advice that you would give to students who are maybe trying to get into this field. So what would kind of like be your advice into like getting into CRM, and sort of why should they pursue it, and what does the job sort of entail?
Yeah, so the job is definitely kind of all over the place in terms of things you get to do. So there's a tactical and execution component that consists of like writing campaign requirements and segmentation and actually building the creative or the email that goes to customers. Then there's also a whole creative and brainstorming component of like new ideas or being analytical and creating methodical test plans to optimize new things. So there's a lot of different spaces that you can take it. There's also like development, IT, coding things that are part of CRM. So there's lots of different components, but to first get your foot in the door, to things to try or look out for, internships, entry level like marketing and coordinating jobs, that'll give you an idea of what a day in the life will entail. And then you can kind of pick your specialty. So CRM, in my world at least, is email or push notifications. But there's also marketing can have broadcast or digital retargeting. search engine, all sorts of different things. And so kind of maybe getting into an agency that has all those different branches in-house will give you an idea of which path you might want to take.
I think another big takeaway that some people just might not know is that you kind of think about Experian and you think about finances. So you might think, okay, I need to be a business major, a finance major to even think about working at Experian. But there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on that you don't really need that specific experience. Like you said, like data entry or computer programmers or developers, and then all types of marketing jobs work at Experian to make sure that the customers know like what they need to know about Experian. So even though it's like a finance, technically like a finance company or it focuses on finance, that's not the only thing that they need. They need a lot
Yeah.
more than that. And I mean, like no matter what your background is, and this doesn't just go for Experian. If you might think about like Bank of America, or if you think about like some healthcare fields, there's a lot of behind the scenes that can fit a lot of different majors or backgrounds. So it's kind of like something that we might overlook as students. We sort of just think about the name. If we Google it, we see, oh, look, finance company or pharmaceutical company or healthcare company. And turns out there's a lot more behind the scenes. If you just go on apply and see the available jobs, it's not what you would normally expect, which is it's interesting and seeing how you can get into it from any type of background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, never in my wildest dreams have I thought that I was going to grow up and market credit scores. But now I'm in this cool job that's really challenging and has so many resources to be able to do new things and come up with all sorts of different campaigns that I want. And so maybe that's another thing students can look for is maybe you know what you want to do-ish. So just start looking at the bigger companies in your area with the resources to have all these different avenues to kind of give it a first test, or that's one way. Or you can also look for new startups that are kind of more jack of all trades. You get one job, but you really are doing a whole bunch of other things and less specialized. So two different avenues to take.
Mm-hmm. And for students coming out of college, do you have like any tips about like credit scores? And I'm not sure like how much experience you have with it, but I don't know, like some like maybe mistakes that student or like, you know, new people coming into the adult quote unquote world, what it's like, or like, you know, making sure they don't make these mistakes or they should focus on these things.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've learned so much about credit scores just from working here, stuff that I didn't even know. Um, Thing one is that to look at your credit report. It's totally free from all the different bureaus, not just Experian, and you can see what's on it. And then to make sure you pay your bills on time. That is the biggest part of your score, is on-time payments. Also, the thing specifically related to being a college student that really messed me up when I had to repay my loans, once I finish paying them, those accounts close and they fall off. They don't fall off your credit report, but they have less impact on your score. And so I had a great credit score because I was paying all my student loans on time. And then when I finished, it was like I was kind of invisible to the credit companies and my score went down. And so kind of prepare for that and expect it. And you can have a credit card in the background ready for that to happen, that you're also regularly making payments on, and that will kind of help stabilize things.
Yeah, I also heard that like, you know, instead of like closing your credit cards, like if it's an old one or one that you don't use anymore, just keep it open because I guess it's like an open line of credit or something like that. And then with it, it's kind of like the student loans that you were talking about. It's like something that still exists on the credit report instead of falling off the map. So I guess there are like a
Yeah.
bunch of like different things as students that we just don't know because you know like it's not part of the adult world yet. We just don't know like
Yeah.
the ins and outs of it. But yeah, it's very interesting credit, and a lot of people say like it's sort of made up, and I feel like it is. I feel like it's all kind of random. It doesn't feel real credit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, definitely keep open the credit cards that you've had since your parents gave them to you when you were 16 or whatever. Keep that open, put your Netflix payment on it and put on auto pay, and it'll just kind of live in the background and it'll help you in the long run versus closing it. But yeah, the system is a little bit weird, but I fully believe that there should have been a course in high school or even in college that like teaches me all this stuff instead of learning it when I'm 32.
Yeah, especially like how big finance is. Like it's like down the road, like once you graduate college, you need a car, you need an apartment, you need to like open up credit cards, right? So or get like loans for other things. And if you don't already have that credit card, like you said, like if your parents opened it for you like before you turned 18, or if you even open one when you are 18, you kind of missed out on that and have just been using like debit cards or cash. You kind of don't have a credit score. You don't have like a line of credit that lenders know that they can trust you. So it's kind
Yeah,
of like making sure you getting in as early as possible is like a necessity.
totally. And there's lots of good educational resources on the Experian blog if people are interested, or you can sign up and see what all there is.
Mm-hmm. So to sort of end it off, can you give kind of like a pitch for kinesiology? Let's say if students don't know like what they want to major in and why they should maybe major in kinesiology, because not only did you get your bachelor's in it, you also got your master's in it. So studying in it was something that you were passionate about. So why should other students have a passion for this? Like what's so great about it that you decided, to spend 7 years of your life doing this?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fun. Like just the classes themselves, if you have any interest in athletics or sports or the human body at all, it's such a cool entry point. So there's so many avenues, whether you're super into sports specifically, then you've got the teaching, coaching, strength and conditioning avenue. Or if you're into the science of it, there's the nutrition and exercise science portion. So there's so many different ways that you can go about it. If you like helping kids, youth sports is a huge thing. If you want to help adults, fitness and wellness and physical therapy and rehab, that's all in the kinesiology umbrella too, or at least a starting point. And so if any of those things appeal to you, there's a place in kinesiology for you.
Yeah, and then like kinesiology does have that bit of a background, that it's not super tailored to just one experience. You're able to take those different classes that you wouldn't normally take, and it kind of builds those sort of like life skills instead of just direct. You're studying math and then you're taking all the math courses, and then if you don't like math afterwards, you kind of don't have those other like backgrounds in it. And kinesiology, it seems like it does prepare you for that.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of like working with the public that kinesiology can teach you. There is the scientific method that kinesiology can teach you, which can then be applied to, my marketing campaign analytics, looking at the numbers later, all sorts of different things.
I see. And then lastly, we just want to ask is any quick tips? Do you have any quick tips for students on campus, like regardless of major, um, something that you kind of like wish that you had done differently at Cal State Fullerton or even at Humboldt State? Just like, things that we should know and we should sort of fix before we finish our college experience.
Yeah. So like get involved as much as you can, say yes to things. You don't have to like everything, but I think you should at least try as much as you can because that opens so many doors. And if I hadn't tried working at the resort, I would never be where I am today. Um, and if someone invites you to go to a club or something, just go to a meeting. If you don't like it, you don't have to go back. So that would be one thing. Thing two, I definitely wish I had done like a travel abroad, like study abroad program. Cause I mean, once you like have like real life boring responsibilities, it's not so easy to do those things. So take advantage while you can. And then the last thing I would say is I wish I had like intentionally networked a little bit more in college. Yes, in my undergrad, but definitely during grad school. These people around you and in your classes are going to be like the future VPs and founders and CEOs of everywhere. And so while you definitely have to have your own merit to earn a job, a lot of getting your resume to the top of the pile might be knowing somebody. And so just kind of keeping those connections alive and forming them more intentionally was something I wish I had taken advantage of.
I see. And then again, that like brings back to what we were saying prior with Titan Pro Network and just connecting with Cal State Fullerton alum because I can't stress it enough, the amount of experience that all the alum have working in different industries, graduating from different backgrounds or different majors, and then switching careers. And it's just something that so many students are thinking about but are sort of afraid of doing it. And you can just learn, like, why reinvent the wheel when you can just do what you guys have done. So yeah, go ahead and head on over to Titan Pro Network. Elizabeth is on there. Definitely, if you reach out to her, she, I believe, is more than willing to help, and just letting you know like what her experience was. And if you like anything about the podcast or the episode, feel free to let her know as well, because I'm sure just like it's nice knowing that we are helping people and people are gaining useful information from this. So thank you, Elizabeth, for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.